At 2:17 in the morning, a minivan sits under the lights of a large parking lot. From the outside, nothing looks unusual. It could belong to a night shift worker. It could belong to someone waiting for a ride. It could belong to a parent who stopped for groceries and never left. But inside, there is a family trying to sleep. A mother in the front seat, two children in the back, school backpacks stacked near the sliding door, a laundry bag pushed between the seats, a phone charging from the dashboard, a few water bottles, folded blankets, fast food wrappers, and a plastic bin holding what is left of a normal life. This is one of the hardest forms of homelessness to see, because it does not always look like homelessness. There is still a car. There is still a job. There is still a phone. There are still school clothes folded carefully for the morning. But there is no bedroom, no kitchen table, no door that locks from the inside and belongs only to them. And that is the quiet change many Americans are beginning to understand. The housing crisis does not always push families straight onto the street. Sometimes it pushes them into the parking lot. When many people hear the word homelessness, they picture tents, sidewalks, shelters, people sleeping outside in visible places. And those realities are very real, but they are not the whole story. For many families, homelessness is quieter. It is a car parked behind a supermarket, a motel room paid for 1 week at a time, a couch in a relative's apartment, a storage unit filled with furniture they hope to use again, a child brushing their teeth in a gas station bathroom before school, a parent changing clothes in the front seat before work. This is called hidden homelessness. And the reason it stays hidden is not only because people are hard to count. It stays hidden because families work very hard to avoid being seen. They park where they will not be noticed. They move before sunrise. They keep the children clean. They keep the backpacks ready. They answer school questions carefully. They do not tell coworkers. They do not tell neighbors. Sometimes they do not even tell relatives. Because homelessness carries shame, and family homelessness carries a particular kind of shame. Parents often feel they have failed, even when the real failure is much larger than one household. A rent increase, a medical bill, a lost job, a broken car, a denied apartment application, a security deposit they could not rebuild, a shelter that had no room, a motel that drained the last savings. None of these has to look dramatic from the outside, but together they can remove a family from housing. And the first thing the family learns is that losing housing does not mean life stops. Children still need to go to school. Work still starts at 8 a.m. The car still needs gas. The phone still needs service. Laundry still has to be done. The body still needs sleep. This is why car homelessness is so unsettling. It exists inside ordinary life. The family is not outside the system completely. They are still moving through it, still working, still buying food, still driving, still filling out forms, still trying to look normal. But the foundation underneath them is gone. A car is not a home, but in America, it can become the last thing between a family and the street. That is partly because American life is built around cars. A car can take you to work, to school, to a shelter intake office, to a laundromat, to a grocery store, to a safer parking lot, to another city if the current one becomes impossible. A car is mobility. But when housing disappears, mobility becomes shelter. The same vehicle that once represented independence becomes a bedroom, closet, pantry, storage unit, and emergency room all at once. That creates a dangerous contradiction. The car is the family's last asset, and also their last home. So they must protect it at almost any cost. The payment must be made. Insurance must be kept. Gas must be bought. Registration must be current. A flat tire can become a housing emergency. A dead battery can become a family crisis. A towing fee can become the event that pushes everything from bad to impossible. This is the part many people miss. A family living in a car may still spend hundreds of dollars a month to keep that car. Not because they are making a bad financial choice, but because without the car, they may lose the ability to work, sleep, move, and keep the children enrolled in school. The vehicle becomes a strange form of survival infrastructure. But it is unstable infrastructure. There is no bathroom, no kitchen, no privacy, no real bed, no safe temperature control, no place to cry without the children hearing. No place where a parent can fully turn off the alertness that comes from knowing someone may knock on the window. That is not shelter. It is exposure with a roof. And it is where many families land when the official systems do not catch them in time. The most uncomfortable part of this issue is that many families living in cars are not disconnected from work. They are not always unemployed. They are not always outside the labor force. Some are working every day. A parent may work in food service, home care, retail, a warehouse, a hospital cafeteria, a hotel, a school, a delivery job, a janitorial shift. These are real jobs. Necessary jobs. Jobs that keep the economy running. But a job does not automatically equal housing anymore. That is the gap. A paycheck may be enough to keep a phone on, enough to buy gas, enough to buy food, enough to pay the car insurance, enough to keep children clothed, but not enough to secure a new apartment, because getting back into housing requires more than 1 month of rent. It often requires the first month, a security deposit, an application fee, a background check, a credit score, proof of income, a rental history, maybe a higher income requirement, maybe no eviction record, maybe no criminal record, maybe no pets, maybe no gaps. The system asks families in crisis to present stability before it gives them housing, and that is where many get stuck. They can pay something, but not enough at once. They can work, but not enough to satisfy the formula. They can survive the week, but not rebuild the entry cost of housing. This is why car homelessness can last longer than people expect. The family is not doing nothing. They are doing everything. Working, searching, calling, applying, saving, moving the car, keeping the kids quiet, trying to avoid tickets, trying to avoid being noticed, trying to get 1 month ahead. But when every day costs money just to survive, getting ahead becomes extremely hard. A family can be working and still be locked out of housing. That sentence should make people uncomfortable, because it means the problem is not only employment, it is the cost of re-entry. Angela is 34. She lives in the Las Vegas area. She is fictional, but her situation is built from patterns happening across the country. She works as a home health aide. She helps older people with bathing, meals, medication reminders, and basic daily care. Her work is necessary, but it does not pay enough to absorb a housing shock. She has 2 children, a son who is 11, a daughter who is 7. For years, they rented a small apartment. It was not perfect. The air conditioner struggled in the summer. The carpet was old. The neighbors changed often. But it was home. Then the rent increased. At first, Angela tried to adjust. She cut streaming services. She stopped buying prepared meals. She bought cheaper groceries. She delayed a dentist appointment. She picked up extra shifts. But the math kept moving away from her. Her monthly take-home pay is about $3,240. Here is the structure after the rent increase. Angela Ramirez, Las Vegas area monthly take-home pay, $3,240. Rent after increase, $1,750. Car payment, $420 car insurance. Gas and maintenance, $530. Groceries and household basics, $780. Phone and basic internet, $160. Children's school and clothing costs, $300. Medical copays and prescriptions, $180. Minimum debt payments, $250. Total core monthly costs, $4,370. Income minus core costs, $3,240 minus $4,370 equals negative $1,130. This is not a household collapsing because of one bad decision. It is a household being pulled apart by normal costs. Rent, transportation, food, children, medical needs, debt from earlier months when the math already failed. When Angela lost the apartment, she did not immediately sleep in the car. She tried relatives first, then a friend's living room, then a motel. The motel was supposed to be temporary, just 2 weeks, enough time to find another apartment. But apartment applications cost money, deposits cost money, moving costs money, and every night in the motel drained the money she needed to escape the motel. After 5 weeks, the car became the only place left. She told her children it was temporary. She believed it when she said it. But temporary can become a season, then a school term, then something a family learns to manage while hoping nobody finds out. Many families do not go directly from an apartment to a car. They pass through a motel. That step matters, because a motel can look like shelter, a door, a bed, a bathroom, a shower, a television, a place to plug in a phone. For a parent in crisis, it can feel like buying time. And sometimes it is. But motels can become a financial trap. They usually do not require the same application process as an apartment. No long lease, no large security deposit, no credit standard in the same way. That makes them accessible. But the price is usually much higher. A room that costs $85 a night becomes $2,550 a month. A room that costs $110 a night becomes $3,300 a month. That is more than many rents. But because it is paid daily or weekly, families enter it when they cannot qualify for anything else. The motel solves tonight by weakening next month. This is the trap. The family needs to save for housing. But the temporary shelter consumes the savings. The children have a bed, but the parent is watching the account empty. The longer the family stays, the harder it becomes to leave. And motels bring other pressures too. No real kitchen, limited space, unstable neighbors, rules that change, weekly payment deadlines, the constant fear of checkout time. For children, a motel can feel confusing. It looks like travel. But nobody is on vacation. For parents, the motel becomes a countdown clock. Every morning begins with the same question: can we afford one more night? When the answer becomes no, the car is waiting. And by then, the family may already be exhausted, not only financially, mentally, emotionally, physically, because losing housing is not a single event. It is a process of shrinking options. Children experience housing loss differently from adults. Adults think in bills, rent, gas, deposits, applications, shelter intake, work schedules. Children think in details. Where do I put my backpack? Can I invite a friend over? Where do I brush my teeth? Why do we park here? Will someone see us? Do I tell my teacher? Will other kids know? A child living in a car learns routines no child should have to learn. How to sleep sitting up. How to stay quiet when a parent says someone is nearby. How to change clothes under a blanket. How to wash up in a public restroom. How to keep school papers from getting crushed under laundry bags. How to act normal after a night of broken sleep. The hardest part is that many children try to protect their parents emotionally. They stop asking for things. They say they are not hungry. They say they are not tired. They avoid mentioning birthdays. They stop inviting friends. They learn to make themselves smaller. That is one of the hidden costs. A family does not only lose housing. Children lose the feeling that the world is predictable. And predictability is one of the foundations of childhood. A stable place to sleep tells a child something. It tells them the day is over. It tells them they are safe. It tells them tomorrow can begin from the same place. A car cannot fully provide that. Even when the parent is loving. Even when the children are cared for. Even when the family is doing everything possible. The nervous system still understands instability. Doors open nearby. Engines start. Lights flash. People walk past. Weather changes. Someone might knock. A child may sleep, but not deeply. They may go to school, but not fully rested. They may smile, but carry a secret. This is why hidden homelessness can be so damaging. It asks children to live two lives, one life at school, another life after dark. And the line between those lives is often the door of a car. A common question is, why not go to a shelter? It sounds simple, but for families, shelter is not always simple. Some shelters are full, some have waiting lists, some are not designed for families. Some separate men and women. Some cannot take teenage boys. Some do not allow pets. Some are far from work or school. Some require schedules that conflict with night shifts or early morning jobs. Some feel unsafe. Some have rules that make sense administratively but are hard to live inside. And some families avoid shelters because they fear losing control. A shelter can offer a bed. But it can also mean exposure to systems the family does not understand. Questions. Documentation. Rules. Restrictions. Curfews. Shared space. Potential separation. A parent in crisis may choose the car because the car feels terrible but still feels theirs. They can lock the door. They can stay together. They can keep belongings nearby. They can leave if something feels unsafe. That does not mean the car is good. It means the available alternatives may not fit the family's reality. This is why not using a shelter does not mean not needing help. It often means the help available does not match the crisis. The system may have a category, but the family has a life. Work shifts, children's schools, medications, a pet, a car payment, a custody arrangement, a disability, a fear of being judged, a need to stay near one area because moving too far could break the last stable pieces. Housing loss is rarely one clean problem. It is several problems arriving together. And many support systems are built to solve one part at a time. That mismatch leaves families in parking lots. Not because nobody tried, but because the structure was not built for how quickly people can fall now. The parking lot is not the cause. It is the place where the housing system failure becomes visible. Before a family sleeps in a car, many systems have already missed them. The wage system, the rental system, the healthcare system, the childcare system, the emergency savings system, the shelter system, the transportation system, the credit system, the landlord screening system. Each one can say it was only doing its job. The employer paid the market wage. The landlord raised rent. The bank followed credit standards. The apartment complex required income verification. The shelter had no beds. The child care provider charged what it needed to operate. The clinic sent the bill. The car lender expected payment. Each piece has an explanation, but the family lives with the total. That is the key. Systems explain costs separately. Households experience them together. Angela does not experience rent apart from gas. Gas apart from childcare. Childcare apart from work. Work apart from school pickup. School pickup apart from the car. The car apart from insurance. Insurance apart from food. Food apart from medicine. Everything touches everything else. This is why families can fall so fast. There is no single weak point. There is a tight structure with no slack. One missed paycheck, one rent increase, one medical bill, one breakdown, one denied application, one family conflict, one eviction notice, and the household loses the margin that kept it housed. Then the car becomes the margin, the last remaining buffer, the place where all the pressures land. This is why car homelessness tells us something larger. It is not only about people without homes. It is about an economy where many working families are closer to losing housing than they appear. Sleeping in a car is not just uncomfortable. It is unstable. A family must constantly decide where to park. A bright parking lot may feel safer, but also more visible. A dark street may feel more private, but less safe. A rest stop may work for one night. A store parking lot may work until security notices. A residential street may attract suspicion. A church may help. A safe parking program may exist, or it may not. Every night becomes a decision. Where can we sleep without being bothered? Where can we use a bathroom? Where can the children feel safe? Where can we leave before anyone complains? Where can we park and still get to school in the morning? This constant calculation creates stress most housed people never see. A knock on the window can mean a police officer, a security guard, a stranger, a property manager, someone asking them to leave. Even when the interaction is polite, the message is clear. You cannot stay here. That sentence is devastating when there is nowhere else to go. Families learn to live by movement, not because they want to travel, but because staying still attracts attention. This is one of the cruelest parts of hidden homelessness. The family needs stability more than anything. But the condition itself requires constant movement, and movement costs money. Gas, time, energy, sleep, safety, mental focus. A parent who spends the night watching the parking lot still has to function the next day. They have to work, drive, answer children's questions, call housing programs, fill out forms, compare prices, manage fear. There is no recovery period. There is only the next task. This is how exhaustion becomes structural. Not tired from one bad night. Tired because the system never lets the body fully stand down. Housing is not only shelter. It is the place where the nervous system rests. A home gives the body permission to stop scanning, to take off shoes, to close a door, to use a bathroom without planning, to cook without being watched, to sleep without wondering if someone will knock. When a family loses that, stress becomes continuous. The body responds to uncertainty as threat. Cortisol rises, sleep becomes lighter. Small decisions feel heavier. A parent becomes more irritable, more forgetful, more emotionally drained. Not because they are weak, because they are managing too many risks at once. Where to sleep, where to park, what to tell the children, how to keep the car running, how to keep the phone charged, how to stay clean, how to get to work. How to avoid being noticed. How to find housing. How to not break down in front of the kids. This is decision fatigue in its most practical form. The parent is not choosing between brands at a store. They are choosing which risk to accept tonight. Visibility or isolation. Gas money or food. A motel night or saving for a deposit. Telling the school or staying quiet. Calling a relative or preserving dignity. Every choice has a cost. And the children absorb more than adults realize. They hear whispered conversations. They notice when a parent stops eating first. They notice when the car is moved suddenly. They notice when the phone call ends badly. They notice when the adult says, "We're okay," in a voice that does not sound okay. This is why car homelessness is not only a housing problem, it is a health problem, a childhood development problem, a labor problem, an education problem, a mental health problem, a community problem. Because when a family loses the place where life can calm down, every other system begins to feel the pressure. One reason this problem remains hidden is shame. Another is fear. Families may fear being judged, fear being reported, fear losing custody, fear children being bullied, fear employers finding out, fear relatives saying they should have planned better, fear that asking for help will expose them to systems they do not trust. So they stay quiet, and silence makes the problem look smaller than it is. A teacher may notice a child is tired, but not know why. A coworker may notice someone always arrives early and uses the bathroom to clean up, but not ask. A grocery store worker may see the same car in the lot and look away. A school counselor may suspect instability, but not know the full story. A city may count shelters and tents, but miss vehicles. Hidden homelessness survives in the spaces between official categories. It is visible enough to the people living it, invisible enough to the systems measuring it. This is especially true for families. Parents often fight to preserve the appearance of normal life for their children. That appearance can protect the child socially, but it can also make the family harder to reach. The child is enrolled. The parent is working. The car is moving. The family is not always in one place long enough to be counted. So the public sees less than what is happening. And when the public sees less, it often feels less urgency. That is why stories matter. Not to exploit pain, not to turn suffering into spectacle, but to name a reality that hides behind ordinary surfaces: a minivan, a school backpack, a parking lot, a parent's tired face in the glow of a dashboard. Once you understand what you are looking at, the country looks different. A society cannot be measured only by how many people have jobs. It must also be measured by whether those jobs can keep families housed. That is the harder question. If a person works full-time and still cannot afford rent, deposit, transportation, food, and childcare, then the problem is not only personal budgeting, it is structure. If families need cars to reach work, but those same cars become unaffordable to maintain, the problem is structure. If shelters are full, apartments require income levels workers cannot reach, and motel rooms consume the money needed to escape them, the problem is structure. If children are doing homework in cars, while parents work necessary jobs, the problem is structure. This does not mean every individual situation is the same. It does not mean choices never matter. It means the scale of the issue cannot be explained by individual choices alone. Too many families are encountering the same pattern. Rent rises faster than wages. Deposits become harder to rebuild. Landlords screen more tightly. Cars become more expensive. Childcare consumes income. Healthcare bills interrupt savings. Emergency programs lag behind need. And the family's margin disappears. The car is where the missing margin shows up. That is why this issue should unsettle people. Because families living in cars are not outside the American economy. They are inside it, working inside it, driving inside it, buying inside it, raising children inside it, trying to remain invisible inside it. The car is not a separate world. It is the underside of the same system many other households are still barely managing to stay above. And that is what makes the story difficult to dismiss. The distance between housed and unhoused can be shorter than people want to believe. Sometimes it is one renewal notice, one medical bill, one repair, one job loss, one person deciding there is no more room on the couch, 1 month. A car can keep a family moving. It can get a parent to work. It can get children to school. It can hold clothes, documents, food, blankets, and the last pieces of a life that used to fit inside an apartment. But a car cannot replace a home. It cannot give children a bedroom. It cannot give parents privacy. It cannot give a family the deep sleep that comes from knowing they are allowed to stay. That is what housing means at its most basic level. Permission to stay. Permission to close the door. Permission to stop moving. And when families lose that, the loss is larger than rent. It is the loss of ordinary safety. The most unsettling part is that these families are not always far away from the lives other Americans recognize. They are in the same parking lots, the same schools, the same grocery stores, the same workplaces, the same traffic. They are not outside the country's daily life. They are hidden inside it. And maybe that is why this problem is so easy to miss, because it does not always announce itself as a crisis. Sometimes it looks like a minivan under a parking lot light, a mother awake in the front seat, 2 children asleep in the back, and a country still trying to decide whether it wants to see them.